On today's episode, we're going to talk about apologies, apologizing, the power inherent within them, not only for your kids, but also as a parent. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Way of the Dad podcast, where we fearlessly dive into the depths of dadness. If you like what you are hearing, please share the podcast and give it a review on the platform where you listen. Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Way of the Dad podcast. And this episode here has been one that, I hope it'll be a little bit shorter because it's one I've had some trouble really getting a lot written down on, and maybe because it's just that simple, at least for me. And it's really about apologizing. You know, we kind of don't think too much about apologizing. You know, in casual conversation, it's pretty easy. Of course, you need to apologize when you do things wrong or say something wrong or hurt someone's feelings or whatever, right? But I think sometimes the power of it and also the true purpose can be overlooked a little bit. You know, it's really simple, at least for me. You know, when you talk about apologizing, you know, we, of course, demand our children to apologize. You need to apologize to that person. That what you said was not very nice, or apologize to your brother or sister, or sometimes, apologize to me. Your tone of voice, your actions. And I think that's it's obviously very reasonable. But I think this can be too simplistic. I was having a conversation with my daughter. She was talking about, she's 13, so it's 7th grade, middle school, and, every day's the worst day ever. And I'm going to say that kind of tongue-in-cheek because, us as adults, we know later, of course, that's not the worst day. That's not the worst thing to happen to you. But it's hard to have that perspective when you're that age, and, that's probably a whole nother podcast episode. But I think it's pretty obvious that we all know kind of, what goes on, cliques, friend groups. Sometimes you're trying to be friends with too many friend groups and you got to pick one or whatever. But we were having a conversation and it was about making an apology. Feelings were high and things were said. And we were talking about apologizing. And I wanted to make something clear to her because, of course, in the process of the conversation, it kind of comes up on the top of my head. It's not something I sit here and think about randomly all day. But it was telling her that the importance of apologizing is that it's not for the person she's apologizing for. The apology is for you, the person apologizing. Because we all know that you actually can't control whether that person accepts your apology or not. And if that's the case, then why apologize, right? But the apology is actually for you. It's necessary. It's a necessary part of making mistakes and learning from them. And as long as your apology is genuine and heartfelt, sure, they're probably going to accept your apology, but you don't know that. And they may not be ready to, and they may never accept your apology. And that's okay because you don't have control over their actions. The important part is that you apologize. You make that effort. So that's what I was really trying to press upon her, is that the apology is more important for you than it is for the person you're apologizing to. That doesn't mean you should be mailing it in or anything. And it kind of got me thinking about apologizing, what it really means. And it's something we want our kids to do, obviously. When they're out of line, do something wrong, whatever. And it's the same thing, I would imagine, for us when we were kids. We had to apologize, and that sucks sometimes. There are times that was miserable. You felt like the smallest creature on the planet when you had to apologize to someone because you did something wrong, said something wrong, hurt their feelings. Said something and it just came out wrong. Like you didn't intend to say what you said the way you said it, but that's what happened. So it's very important for kids to apologize, but what about us? What about parents? What about us as grown adults? And I think it's even more important because now your kids see not only, oh, wow, now I know why I have to apologize because I can see mom or dad apologizing, right? That's easy. You're exhibiting the behavior you expect and all that. But I think it's also important for us as parents, when we get out of line, handle something poorly, apologizing to our children. And that, I definitely know a few people I've met in my life that would absolutely disagree with that thought process. But apologizing doesn't mean weakness. I have apologized to my kids before when I had a really bad day at work or a really long week at work, and I come home and they are just, in their moods and they go off. And I handled it very poorly. Believe it or not, we're all human. We pop off sometimes when we shouldn't. Handle something the way we shouldn't have. That's okay. But I think it's important to apologize later. And I will make clear, a lot of times I'm not necessarily apologizing for getting on my kids about whatever it was they were doing that they shouldn't have been doing. A lot of times it's about how I handled it. Like if my reaction was a lot hotter than it needed to be, because I kind of recognized that I'm just irritated. So did something need to be said? Yeah. Did I need to do it that way? Probably not. Now, there are times when that level of heat is warranted, but I usually go out of my way to apologize when I know that I overreacted to something. And I think that also shows something, because when your kids see you apologizing, whether it's to them or to somebody else, the goal is for them to see that, oh, my parents make mistakes too. And they're apologizing. So now I understand why apology is important. But it's important because now your kids see you apologizing, and they understand why they have to apologize too. Goes back to exhibiting the behavior you expect from your kids, and you show that you're doing it too. But don't underestimate the power of the apology. Again, it's for you, because it's a necessary part of you learning from your mistake and working to right that mistake, or to at least try to make it right. It also shows, when you apologize, shows your children that you're not a hypocrite, and also shows them how to move on. And I'm definitely not by any means saying that we as parents should be apologizing for things that we didn't do wrong or didn't handle wrong. Shouldn't be apologizing for disciplining our kids when they needed to be disciplined, grounding them when they need to be grounded, whatever. Because that's a slippery slope, and you have to be careful of that. You don't want to get into the habit of apologizing for doing things that you should be doing. But I think it's kind of one of those things when you know internally, wow, I wasn't at my best there. I maybe brought a little too much of my job home with me, or my frustrations from, a relationship, a friendship, something else external, and that came home with me. Those are the kind of times when you kind of know that you handled it wrong, and I don't think there's anything wrong with apologizing as a parent when you hold yourself accountable to the rules, the standards that you've set, even if it is to your kids. Say, hey, look, you you were wrong, you were acting like this or doing this or whatever, but I could have handled that better. That wasn't my finest moment. So, that's going to about wrap it up for this one. And it's just one of those things that kind of came up in conversation and made me think about it a little bit more. And so again, I'd, obviously love to hear from y'all. Anytime I get some emails or some messages on Facebook or through the YouTube channel, I really enjoy them. And, but yeah, wayofthedadpodcast@gmail.com. Way of the Dad Podcast on Facebook. There's a YouTube page. There's a Rumble page. There is an Instagram page, but I gotta admit, I don't really, the format for Instagram doesn't really work for me with what I'm trying to do here. But anyway, you feel like you want to reach out or leave a comment or anything at all. But I always appreciate it if you can like, share, subscribe, and spread the podcast around. Until next time, take care and have a great day. Thanks for listening. The Way of the Dad podcast is produced and recorded by, well, me, a stunningly average husband and father, who appreciates all of the likes, shares, reviews, and support you give. If you would like to reach out, you can find the podcast on its Facebook page, and of course you can email me at wayofthedadpodcast@gmail.com. Come back next time as we continue to fearlessly dive into the depths of dadness.